Welcome back to another episode of Reliability Expo, and today we're in Bradenton, Florida at the Iris facility. All right, so today we're here with Rudy, the Vice President of Engineering Services with Iris.
Yep.
Welcome, Rudy.
Thank you.
So Rudy, can you tell us a little bit about Iris, kind of the history?
Sure. Yeah, so Iris was founded about 22 years ago, originally in the UK. And then the founder moved it here to North America and reincorporated about 12 years ago. The company started really as an infrared services organization, but pretty quickly the founder, Martin, who I think you're going to meet later today, he discovered that the crystal infrared windows that everybody was selling and everybody was installing, they weren't particularly good. And so he started experimenting really in his garage with different materials and trying to figure out what might be a good alternative construction method for infrared windows, and that's how the company got started, and then we've expanded into other things since then.
Yeah, I've noticed you're taking on a lot of newer technologies, things like that, as well as expanding your business. You know, Latin America seems to be growing.
Yep, absolutely. We have business development leaders for Asia Pacific, for Latin America. We still have a branch office in the UK with a business development lead there and a small warehousing operation and a small service activity still going on in that part of the world. And then here in North America is, you know, where the majority of our activity goes on, and we have a sales team of 6 people plus marketing and finance, and all those other functions are based here, as well as the manufacturing, of course.
And then here, manufacturing, you guys do pretty much everything.
Soup to nuts, yep. We are a full service sheet metal fabrication, paint, welding, assembly operation. We make our own labels for the product, the domed plasticized labels for every product. Pretty much everything we do in-house. There's very little that we don't do.
What about the number of windows manufactured out of this facility?
Oh, wow. In any given year, we're probably talking 40 to 50,000 individual windows come out of here. And that's not including some of the custom panel things that we are now becoming a bigger and bigger part of our business, where we're actually doing full replacement panels. You know, we'll look at an existing piece of switchgear, a panel board, a switchboard, and make a replacement dead front for it, but with the windows sort of built straight into it. So we're doing a lot more and more of that type of activity as we go on.
Yeah, that's great. Today we're here to check out the Sentry asset tagging system.
Okay, so now we're going to unbox our Sentry asset management system so we can take a look at what these tags look like and talk about their application. So it comes with 5 in a packet. And as you can see, we've got 5 of those sitting here. And I've got 5 of a kind, actually, because they're identical. Each card has an internal antenna. The antenna works through NFC signal and can be picked up by an Android device. And so a user gets within 1 centimeter of the card, the Android device will read the card with their application, and then the user would enter their data and set up the card. And we'll look at the software in just a little bit. On the back side of this is industrial strength 3M adhesion strip. So obviously you would want to clean the surface of the asset that you're going to stick this to, remove the protective film, and of course stick it to the asset. So written on the card and a space for each one of these for you to write the information are the location of the asset, an infrared window number, as well as the transmission rate or the rate of degradation through the window itself based on the infrared camera that you're using. These tags, however, are not solely utilized for infrared windows. These tags, as you'll see in the software demo, are really related to a lot of other opportunities around the plant. And so not only are these useful on infrared windows, but for a variety of assets. And again, when we go through the software, we'll talk in more depth about that. But essentially, you are going to peel this back, clean your asset, stick it to the asset, scan, set up the asset in the software. and set up potential inspection points or routes. And so a technician would come by with their phone, they would scan this and say, here's the reading I'm inputting, or yes, I took the infrared image, or I inspected behind the window, or through the window. So there you have it. These are the eSentry Connect tags associated with the eSentry asset management system. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the eSentry asset management system. And with me is Tyler McDonald. Tyler is the manager of the technical services organization here at IRIS. Welcome, Tyler.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. Thank you so much for spending time to kind of demo this for us. So what we're going to take a look at is the eSentry tagging system. And what that is essentially some cards that have an antenna inside of them so that you can collect data using your phone. In addition to that, it does a whole lot more than just say, I'm a tag and I'm over here. So we're kind of going to walk through all of those aspects. But first and foremost, it's a simple tag. It's got a 3M strip on the back. You attach it to your asset, whether it's at the frame, the side door of your air handler, or the next to the boiler, wherever it is that these need to be applied specifically for that asset. And so I've just got some of these and they came in the mail. What do I have to do, Tyler?
So the first step that you're going to take when you're adding these into your system is you're going to appropriate them. So I've got a little blank tag here. This is what you would use. You get them out of the box. You would first, whenever we add a new client, we then add them to our cloud system. So you would sign up for a subscription. It's limited by the individual sites that you want. You pay once per site. And then you have a set of users. You can have any number of administrators that you want, and from there you can have any number of users. So the difference between an administrator is someone who works with the actual cloud and actually creates routes. And then you have sort of ground level users, which is your maintenance staff and anyone else who wants to actually work with the tags.
And are they different licensing tiers? So you're paying for the site and then you administer from there?
Exactly. Once you have your site, you can create and add any number of users. It's just access. Right. Is what they can and can't modify.
Okay.
From that point, we also allow, if in the events that someone needs a restricted server, in industries like that are proprietary, they can have individual on-site clouds. They can actually run it either from their
So you'll do
server.
localized on-premise AWS out of their own data center versus you hosting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Then from there, we allow them to add tags. So you, for example, buy these, the new asset tag, you want to attach to a piece of equipment. You log in on your wireless device. It can be a tablet or a phone, as long as it has NFC capability. And so that's near field communication. A wide variety of Android devices already have it built in, including tablets. And from there, you can then interact with your tags. Now, unfortunately, we currently don't support Apple only because they do not allow the level of encryption that we require with our tags. We want to make sure that the system was safe, that no one could come on site and just start reading away, which is a sort of open platform fault in our case. We wanted to make sure it's secure, so we use an encryption level that only Android currently supports.
Okay, excellent. And so I bought some tags. I need some type of a device. Yeah. Will my regular Android phone work, or an Android tablet, or do I have to have something special?
Most devices have NFC these days. Roughly 75% of the market for Android has one of those readers, whether it's tablet or not. And as long as you have that capability, you'll be able to read the tags.
Okay, excellent. And I noticed you have something completely different. So really quick, not to make that part of what we're demoing, but what is this and why is that different?
So for IRIS's purposes, we recommend the Cat S60 phone. It's our premier sort of resell phone from Cat. They actually make a phone that has a infrared camera built in. It's both useful for our standard product line of infrared windows and has a NFC reader built in. Okay. So with that, we're able to then interact with the tags. Okay. So in this case, I can take a tag, place it to the back of the equipment, and then I will see if I have this tag already in my system, all the information that's built in. Now, if I wanted to add a tag, to say you just opened a couple yourself, I can then take that same tag, read it here, and it can ask me to personalize it. From there, I add in any name, whatever equipment it's going on. and you're off to the races.
Okay, so what does off to the races mean? I've got a tag, it says I'm asset 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it?
So when you open up your asset, it not only has the 1, 2, 3, 4, but also has its equipment information, what asset it's applied to. You can modify any of that information as you go. You can then change what inspection point you have, the type of alarms you're going to expect, the alarm level that you want to sort of notify the technician on.
So you can do inspections with these?
Correct.
And you can identify meter reading points and what is the expectation as part of the route.
So as part of the route, you go down to your asset and you are supposed to convey the current condition of that asset via that inspection point. So when a technician is sent on a route, they go through and inspect each individual tag and then report back the current condition. That way, the administrator online can then determine the condition of their site.
Okay, so I'm responsible for maintenance at a site. I get a bunch of these tags. I'm going to put them on, say, all of my chilled water distribution system assets. And I need somebody who currently goes around and takes readings and they put them on a piece of paper and they end up in a filing cabinet. How's this different?
So instead of having it obviously locked into a filing cabinet where the only people who are going to get access to it is the actual on-site technicians, he can't get to it when he's off-site, he can't get to it on the cloud. We're going to make that available to him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's going to be available for all the administrators, regardless of whether or not you have access to your on-site or not.
And trend it, right? I mean,
exactly.
You rummage through papers and try to figure out whether or not over time you're trending up or down. That's almost impossible, right?
Exactly. And so over time, you're going to build up this trend, this history that you have for your asset. Even if you don't have any particular monitoring on it, you've built up a lifetime of experience with this asset, and you can use that to evaluate the condition and how you want to react to your maintenance plan.
So asset tags, asset information, detailed information about the equipment. I can then put them into routes and develop meters with alarm points. And then how does that end up out in the field?
So once you have, so for example, if someone were to have reported overtime, we're going to go over to the cloud here. I can see here that I have a trend we're going to go ahead and look at the Celsius temperature here. If I've been trending for a while now, this right here is my alarm value. At this moment, I could see that I crossed over that threshold and I want to react accordingly. I would have been received an alarm as the maintenance technician would have notified that this level had been exceeded. I can then take those alarm tags and create a route to instruct my staff to go out and make sure that all of these assets have been properly regulated and maintained, and that I'm not going to be looking forward to some kind of a collapse later along in the line. Having created that route, the users can then go along and it will enforce that each and every asset has been inspected.
Because they have to scan it.
Exactly.
So another question while you're bringing that up. So all of these points are collection points that the technician took.
Correct.
How did they know to take them?
So in their personal apps, they have a set of assigned routes. If they have, as a user, had an administrator assign them a route of the assets they need to inspect, they will receive on their phone both an email notification and they'll see in their assigned routes a new entry. By clicking on that, they can set it to their current route, and it will then instruct them to go through that list of assets. Only by clearing out every asset in that list will they eventually be able to close out the route. Until that time, the administrator will know that the route is currently still open.
Right.
And eventually, once every route has been checked, it will then collect the time frame and all data associated with their inspection. It will then complete the route and allow the user to clear it from their system.
Okay. And so are they named users or can they be generic? So in other words, does it have to go to George Williams or can it go to Mechanic 1?
Nothing requires that it be a specific person. We do allow for naming, but you can name it into, for example, the general user. If you have contractors rather than individual people, you just need to give one user account which is run. So for example, on our Iris site as demonstrations, we have a sales account. Anyone from sales can access it, add, remove users. They can go through as if they were standard administrators. Now, you can then specify, no, this has to be a Greg, this has to be Tom, and he can have special data. which means when they perform an inspection, their name and email will be associated with that check-in. So if you need that level of detail of knowing that a user was the actual one performing that check-in, you can have it.
Okay, excellent. And so, okay, we now hit an alarm point. What happens?
So as soon as I had an alarm point, not only is it going to appear on my main dash, so on the cloud, the administrator is going to see immediately, I have a new asset tag in a critical condition. If I actually go into my check-ins, I'm just going to go this little check-ins page here, you can see a wide variety of different alarm levels that are here. You know, no alarms, critical alarms, medium alarms. All of these are my active check-ins. This is the last information that came in, and I can react to all of this information and inspect exactly what happened. So if I want to see why this happened, this is a very specific check-in. I can see what equipment was there, what condition it was, and I can look at the actual inspection information. So here's the check-in. I know who did it, when they did it, the equipment they used while inspecting, and can find out what notes they gave me back. Now, the notes section is expanded to 5,000 characters, so if you need to include a significant amount of data, you can, but also it can be short and sweet. From there, we also allow you to include the measurement, which is rated against whatever unit they were measuring, and that goes back into the trending.
Okay. All right. So can we see how you set up an actual alarm point?
Yeah, exactly. So alarm points are set actually from the tag level. So for example, if I have this asset here and I want to inspect it, I would then go into an inspection, go ahead and scan that tag, put that up here, and if you actually see under equipment information, you have your unit of measure, which you can bring as a drop down to any of these values. There's voltage, there's relative humidity, newton meters for pressure, and then you can change the alarm level. So I'm setting that alarm level, you know, for example, if we're looking at decibels, I want to know if any time I'm seeing decibel readings above 40, for example, for just ambient decibels, I can set that here, save that, and that is a reference point for my tag. That is the alarm condition for that asset.
Okay.
And then, go ahead.
So for each tag, there's only one potential alarm point.
In that inspection type. Now, when you change to a different inspection, you just change the alarm level and then you record that. That's where you get on our main page that trend. The trend of alarm levels that are there. You can see this gray line.
So this is one tag, and I can look at Celsius, I can look at decibel readings, I can look at all those things, right? Each one of those is not an individual tag.
Correct.
It's just part of one tag.
So for example, when this tag had been set, when looking at C, you know, for example, temperature, this alarm level was set and is persistent across the entire set, and then I trend against it. My decibel alarm level is very different. So if I look to decibels here, the alarm level is set across the board, and we then counter against that.
And the units of measure, they're part of the software. You know, as a user, you don't get to choose those.
Correct. There's a list that we preset.
Okay. And so you're kind of confined to what that is at the moment.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we've got setup of alarms. How do you build a route out of that?
So if you want to construct a route, the administrator goes to the routes page and then can create a route. You go ahead and click on the little plus sign. We could name it. We're just going to call this test route for now. We're going to go ahead and save that, and then I'm going to begin adding stops, which are individual asset tags that we're going to go through here. Now, I happen to know the tags I currently have with me, so I'm going to go ahead and say that we're going to go TK. I'm going to go ahead and filter. I'm just going to look for the asset tags that I have on file, just the ones here. As you can see, I can see all the different ones that I've had with my switchgear. I'm going to go ahead and add this one to the list. I now have a stop. Now I could add as many as I want. I can then rearrange them. So if I have multiple tags, I believe that the next one you have in your hand. Okay, so I've just added both those tags to my platform. So I could rearrange these if I wanted. If there's a lot of tags, you can then reorganize them by room and location. And then I can submit that to a user. In this case, for example, I'm just going to go ahead and submit it to myself. So if let's see, my user is sales. I'm going to assign it to as an employee to our sales account here. So we have a large string of users. I went ahead and assigned it to myself. After a few moments, I'll actually get an email notification that will tell me that I was just assigned a route. And on my device, under assigned routes, I will get a new route. For example, I just received test route 3 minutes ago. Or sorry, a minute ago. From there, I have my test route. This is right now the current assets. I have 2 inspection points I need to go through.
Yeah.
At this time, there is nothing that I can do to check off these assets on this route until I actually inspect these tags. So for example, I have here, very first stop is demo kit 03. I'm going to go ahead and click on that one, and I want to read this tag. So I'm going to go ahead and scan that real quick. It opens up. If I were in front of my asset, I would then conduct my inspection, gather whatever information I have, report any alarms that I might see, and the general condition of that equipment. Now, as I do that, I want to go ahead and write to it. It'll confirm if I have any changes, if I want to make sure that those are the changes I want. This is to prevent anyone from overwriting a piece of information that might be vital to their organization, so they know what happened before and what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and confirm that write, grab the same tag, this would be on the equipment, and then write onto that asset. At that point, I've now overwritten what was there, and a copy of that will go to the cloud. If I go back and check my current route, I can see that one asset has been checked off. I can then go back and complete the last one. You mind handing me that tag? Thank you. Scan that asset tag. Go ahead and write to it. And now that all the tags have been successfully written to this route, my current route says mark as complete. Until I do this, it will remain open online, and the administrator will see that my currently assigned route is incomplete. So you can see here, now that I've completed both of them, I am finished, but now that I complete this, I have no route, and my user, or myself in this case, now has his tasks completed for that day.
Okay.
After that, the assigned route will be marked as complete, as you can see here.
Excellent. So when you find an abnormal condition and you find something above the alarm point, what does the system do? How can it notify you outside of just, does it immediately notify you on the device as the technician that it is out of tolerance?
The technician is not informed because we want the administrator to handle the actual assignment of that.
Okay, so it's written to the tag, not necessarily seen on the device, but then sent to the cloud.
Yes.
And then the administrator, on whatever frequency they're looking at that, or right in their dashboard, they see something's an alarm.
Exactly.
And then what happens?
That's where they react and would create a follow-up route. Because we don't want anyone keeping their assets in a state where they are in a condition that could be negative.
Yeah.
So they react accordingly, and they repeat this cycle where they create the route, and then the route responds by, you now update your assets, and hopefully they will be updated into a condition that is not in alarm, and allow you to basically ensure that all your staff is green.
And can you give those routes a frequency? In other words, once a month, I want to send Tyler out to go inspect ABC.
All routes are assigned manually,
Okay.
so you can have a repeated route and you can just keep sending it, but we currently do not have any automation.
So this is a complement to a PM program coming out of your CMMS system, which may say, hey, you need to go do this inspection, and it may even have all the instructions. The complement here is they've got to physically go to the tag.
Exactly.
They've got to record the data, and now I can trend the data.
Exactly.
Excellent.
In effect, we very much consider this to be a validation system to make sure that everything is happening according to the way you imagined, and you have a timetable for exactly how this goes on. Yeah,
no doubt. And just in the back of my head, I recall in my past we had a boiler makeup water break. Actually, it was a condensate return break that was causing us to use too much boiler makeup water. And this was on a massive several hundred acre campus. And we didn't really know anything other than we're making up too much boiler water. Our chemical costs were going through the roof. But it's not something that happened overnight. You know what I mean? Those things happen over time, and you never see it when you're filling out a piece of paper and putting it in a file and cabinet filling it. And in this system, you would start seeing those trends going up because you're taking those readings, and you would easily see or set your own alarm point that says, "Hey, go do something because something's not right."
Exactly. And to ensure that that is exactly how you see it, we allow on the main dashboard that you can create your own favorites menu. Effectively, these are your favorite tags. you can set that to whether or not you want to see just the alarm tags you have over here, your currently assigned routes. And that way it's always at your fingertips. That if I want to know that these problem tags, or these are the ones that have alarms recently, I'm always watching over them. Have they been rectified? Am I still looking at the same issues that I was before? And what does its lifespan trend look like?
Nice. And what happens when the alarm point comes across, the administrator sees it in a report? Is there any electronic notification? Can there be any electronic notification?
Well, so first of all, they obviously get notified from the main dashboard. We also have in the check-in section, there's obviously the color-coded element that notifies you, and you can also sort by alarm levels, but everything is very much about the cloud. Okay. We can do alarm settings when it comes to emails, but that is something we're expanding into.
Excellent. Certainly that'll be an opportunity for the future, but I like the way it's clean and simple. It's very well designed, and there's not a lot to learn in order to be able to do this, right? You buy some tags and get the software. It should be fairly intuitive to get it all set up. We consider
that when designing all of our software platforms, we try and look at making sure that it's accessible. And with this application, really after just a couple of moments, you are running immediately. You can create your own and tailor your own experience and try and make sure that you're building a much safer maintenance platform for yourself.
Excellent. What am I missing? Is there anything else I need to know?
In the event that you want to sort of export your data and do some reports and reviews, we obviously support an Excel function that can generate reports based on any information you want, a date range that you need, and generate that into something that you can then mold into further advanced reports and graphs, however you need them.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been a great demo, very informative. It's a clean system. I like the fact that it forces the technician to actually go be physically at this. I see a lot of good applications for this. And it's a very good complement to a CMMS system and the setup of the PM structure there as well.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, let's look at some pros and cons associated with the Sentry asset tagging system. First and foremost, it's an easy way to get yourself a good, clean asset hierarchy built. It's either tagged or it's not. And if you've gone around and tagged everything, then you know you've got a record of it. If you've not tagged it or it doesn't have a tag, you know you haven't captured it yet. It might not be in your CMMS. So it's a pretty good way to catalog your assets. If you don't have a CMMS, this is a great way to catalog your assets. Number two, it's durable. It's just a hard plastic card with a chip inside of it, much like what's in your credit card. And so, ship those to me and I'll, take a look at all your chips. No, anyway, so it's very durable. It's very rigid, very hard plastic. It's got the chip inside, so it can't get damaged on the outside unless you destroy the card itself. Can ensure inspections. So if your inspection setup is happening through eSentry and you're telling your folks to go do your rounds, then in order to say they've actively finished a step, they've got to essentially scan this tag. And so it requires you to go physically to that, much like if you remember security systems, you used to have to walk around and turn a key or use a badge reader and hit a badge reader. It works much the same way that in, a few years ago, we would have security folks that walked around and take those rounds. This works much the same way on the asset side with the maintenance folks. In order to prove that you went and did the step instead of potentially pencil whipping your PM, you've got to essentially scan this with your phone. Some cons, limited range. You've got to be upfront, personal, close, and right on this thing in order for it to scan effectively and say, yes, you were there. Another con on this side is you have to actually have a device. So it's, if you're in a work order system now and you're just handing out paper, you're going to have to acquire some type of device or ask people to use their personal phones, which may or may not be feasible, in order to scan this device. So it's close proximity only. But I think that's the point. The point of it is you have to go physically be there to prove that you did the step within your route. And so for that, it's doing exactly what it said. So while it's listed as a con, it's in purpose in its design and in its inherent engineering setup to require you to be that close so that you can capture what you're doing. So overall, I kind of like this tagging system. I really do actually, to set up and just make sure that you have everything cataloged is a huge benefit. And, that's not the easiest thing to do. And the second piece is to actually require someone to go out to the asset and scan that they were there, whether it's for a PM or not, just to say, okay, well, I did work on it. Here's my scan. This is how you know I worked on it. It can avoid quite a few issues that may exist in your plant today, such as pencil whipping, such as, multiple people putting time on work orders that they may or may not have been working on. So this can alleviate some of those issues. So overall, I'm a fan.
Hey, if you would like your product reviewed by Reliability Expo, contact us at ask@reliabilityx.com. We'll set up a time where we can either come onto your site or you can ship us your product or give us access to your software, and we can do a product review for your organization as well. Contact us at ask@reliabilityx.com.